good sign. And now I push this button, and ooh, I think chat. Tell us if you can hear us. Hello. Uh, Hang on, I can turn up the volume. I
Waiting for
did.
you.
I can hear some.
Okay.
All right,
This is waiting for you. Okay.
here we go,
Oh,
Jeb.
oh, there it goes.
Yeah,
It works.
I guess no one's more surprised than me. Hi, folks.
I'm
How you doing? There's a whole
I'm
bunch of people
impressed.
here. This is just really cool.
Yeah.
This is really cool. This is very different, Jeb. This is very different.
This is all your fault, Jack.
Well, this is you've been saying that for years, and you haven't stopped me yet. So I want to say hello. Let's see what we got here. Let's got Alex T is out there, and this is just the whatever order YouTube is telling me. Alex T, hi. Bill M is there. Bill R is there. Brian 08 is there. Cessna 177 Flyer is there. DJ T is there. Me and Jeb are there. Keith B is there. Nathan G is there. What does this one say? It says S804 ever. Anyways, hi, how you doing? Tim Ettridge is there. Hi, Tim.
Yeah.
And Wave Talkers, Chris is there. Um, I thought that 172 Drew was there, but I'm not seeing his name on the list. I don't know whether they fell off. But anyways, hi folks, welcome to our first ever live stream. And this is just I don't even know. I Jeb and I have spent some time over the last few days talking about what this is supposed to be like. And we've done we've done over 700 episodes of the regular audio podcast. And for better or worse, we got that one kind of dialed in. And we're trying to
Well, it only
decide.
took 500 tries.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But trying to figure out whether this is just that with pictures or is it something else. One of the things it's going to be for sure is that it's going to be a conversation, more of a conversation. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on the chat and talk with people, and we'd love to hear your questions there. Um, let's see now, DJ T. Your names are right there. This is everyone knows. Longtime listeners know that I'm reluctant to use people's last names, but your name is right there. So forgive me if I say your full name here. DJ Torrent says hi. You're among friends. Brian 08 says I'm a pro. Well, that's yet to be determined. DJ says 5x5. That's good. Wave Talkers, which is my work buddy Chris. Hi, Chris says you're live. Bill Rote says we can. Oh, he must be answering to we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear
Yeah.
you. Hello. The Trophy Club in Texas. How you doing? Hi, Bill Mellett. Tim Ettridge. Hi, Tim. Where are you? Are you in Florida, Tim? Or you're a traveler? You're all over the place. I don't know where you are right now. Um, Nathan G, thanks. I like the shirt too. I wore my bright, shirt. This is I'm on stage, so I have to dress in bright
Do you have
clothes.
to recharge that periodically? You plug it in. Is it USB?
Yeah, it's got a little plug in the back.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Stuart A, hi, how you doing? There we go. There's DWP.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's 172 Drew. Um,
Oh, JR just joined the chat.
JR is here too.
Oh
Uh-oh.
man.
Oh man, there goes the neighborhood. I don't know. Okay, yeah. Um, Jay Balloonist from Dayton, Ohio. Hi, a great aviation town.
Great
Wow.
aviation
Okay, there
town.
we go. Yeah. Who was it? Just someone was telling me on their way home. I think it was Jim G said on his way home from Oshkosh, he diverted not to Dayton, but to what is it? The town with the big airbase, Cincinnati. Um,
Well, Dayton has Wright Patterson, doesn't
maybe it's
it? Yeah.
Dayton. Anyways, he went to that museum. He was singing the praises of that
Yeah, I've
of,
heard
of,
it's great.
of
It
that
used to be you could
museum.
fly in there privately. I don't know if you still can.
I Yeah. Have you heard of 9/11? I don't know. Maybe you can.
I have heard of 9/11.
Yeah, maybe you can. Anyways,
Yeah. Anyway,
let's see now. Tim Ettridge says
is there
this.
a list?
There is, yeah, there is a list, as a matter of fact. And I don't, I have a hard enough time juggling the list when we do this. I'm going to juggle the list and try and follow the chat. I don't know how well
Sure.
this is going to work at all, but um,
Yeah, Wright
I,
Patterson Dayton. Yeah, according
yeah.
to Jay
So,
Balloonist.
but one of those, and so there's a big museum, which I've always heard is a great museum. I've never been, and he was saying and he confirmed that it's a great museum. So that was a lot of fun. Um, let's see now, Timmy says he's back in Florida.
Six
Back
week bike ride.
this is Tim. Have you never
I,
talked to him about these things? Yeah,
I've never talked to him about these things. No.
yeah, he's like I don't know, Tim. Are you actually a triathlete, or are you just? But I know you do sort of extreme, you know, physical activities and that kind of thing. And right, Pat is in Dayton. JB says.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
uh,
Anyway,
I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea what this format is. Let's just kind of maybe we'll just kind of visit the list and then return to the chat and look at the list and return to the
okay.
chat. We had a so I was looking through the list and I was looking through stories that are on the web and I came across this one, which at first I was going to ignore for I don't know a couple of reasons. Some are good and some are not so good. But it occurs to me that this is actually an off-field landing of the week. It should have been an off-field landing of the week. This is the A320 um, that it is apparently landed on a it didn't land in a field so much. Apparently, according to the story, it landed on a like a dirt road, but it landed successfully. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, and it got banged up a little bit, but not so bad that they weren't able to restore it. I guess they had to service the engines, and they had to tidy up the emergency chutes. Um, and now they're talking about
Clean
that they're
out the
going.
pilot's seats.
Yeah, yeah, right. Now they're going to try and fly it out of there,
Yeah.
and that would be an interesting thing. I don't
Yeah.
know how much we're going to hear about this story because it's in Russia that this happened, and news out of Russia is a little kind of chaotic right now. But
The word is hinky.
congratulations to the crew. So apparently, what happened, if you read the comments on this story, everybody's kind of suspicious about what really happened. The public story, the published story, was that they had a landing gear problem at their initial destination, so they were going to divert to an alternate that might have been a better. And I've heard these kinds of stories that when you have a problem like this, there are other airports that might be a better choice. You know,
Right.
if you're going to land gear up or something like that. So they were going to go to another airport. They had enough gas according to the calculations, but in retrospect, they concluded that part of their gear problem was that one of the gear doors didn't completely close, and as a result, they were carrying a whole bunch of extra drag, and that burned fuel faster, and so they were going to run out of gas before they were going to get to their alternate
Fuel.
fuel. Excuse me. Thank you.
Fuel.
Uh, yeah, you're right. I guess that's not gas. Um, so they decided to land apparently, and they say, "Oh, there's a road right there. Let's put the big airliner, Airbus."
Let's just put this A320 on the nearest dirt road. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And but they did, and everybody's apparently. I didn't read. Again, this is a way after the fact story because this story is more about how they're going to get out. I didn't find the story about the actual incident, but the fact that the chutes went out suggested that people got off, and the fact that the airplane's intact suggests that there weren't any severe injuries. So, anyways, there we go. Um,
How would you like to be the guy who gets to say yes or no on taking off from that field?
Yes, I know, right? And so everybody's really concerned in the comments about the state of the ground, like whether or not it's one thing to land a big jet on this, but to kind of get it rolling. Talk about soft field takeoff is kind of the
Because I'm
tone
sure
of.
that's in the book. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And someone suggested that they were going to wait until it got a little colder so the ground firms up a little bit, and do it then. But I don't know, kind of an interesting story. I wish it was in a location where we could more reliably
Yeah.
find out what the
Yeah.
outcome was, and maybe we will. I don't know, but
Well,
you know,
um, yeah, it'll be interesting.
yeah,
It'll be interesting.
yeah. So
So,
yeah, so there's
um,
that. Um, Back in the chat, Bill Millett says that it's the National Museum of the U.S. Air Force in Dayton, and he says it is awesome. Um, and Yeah, okay. Well, here we go. I don't know if we're going to go there. Michael Vance asks, Jeb, your day job just got a new boss. How's that
yeah,
working out?
yeah. I said, so far so good.
Yeah.
Um,
It,
actually, the hierarchy is such that I still have the same boss. So the
yes.
immediate
Yes.
boss. So
But yeah,
and that's a
things
good
are
thing. Yeah,
things are being yeah, right. Yeah.
yeah.
So
There's stuff
yeah,
behind the scenes.
yeah. Malcolm Tees is here. Hi, Malcolm. How you
Hey,
doing?
Malcolm.
He likes my shirt too. Very Florida. Very. It's not just Florida now. Everyone's wearing these kind of Hawaiian-y shirts. I see them all over the
Everybody,
place, and well, I mean,
everybody,
yeah, all over the country. I see them. I do for sure.
everybody. Yeah,
Saw them
yeah.
all. I saw them around Oshkosh.
You don't
Yeah.
see him much in Florida.
Do you not? I don't know.
I don't.
Yeah. So yeah. Uh, Jr. says every plane will land.
It's right.
Yeah.
eventually,
At least one more time.
at least
Um,
once.
yeah. Jay Balloon says, I actually just flew over the museum on Sunday, did a low approach over the right pat runway. You're allowed to do that if the
No
tower
wheel. Yeah.
allows, but no wheel touching on the runway. I stayed 500 feet AGL. Okay, that's a good, that's,
Oh, my engine just quit, and it happened to be right
yeah.
over this
Where
airport.
did I
Oh
hear?
my!
Yeah, there was someone. That used to be a running joke. That there was a situation. Oh no, I know what it was. It was the shuttle runway in Florida at Cape Canaveral.
Uh
All
huh.
right,
Yeah.
is that assuming workload allows, you can ask the tower for a flight down the runway, but you're not supposed to land. And everybody jokes. It's like, oh, oops, my engine quit.
Oops.
Um, you know. Good luck getting your airplane out of there after it quits. I'm not sure how. Although apparently the controller, everyone I've ever talked to about this say the controllers at um, the shuttle runway. Not, I don't know. Does that runway even still exist? I mean, is it still a working runway?
As
Because
far
there's
as
no
I
more
know,
shuttles.
yeah.
Was it ever used for? Do you guys know this? Somebody in chat know this? Um, so, but I don't. But anyways, yeah, I can't. I've heard that they were really friendly people. This is true. I've said this before on the podcast. I think that FAA employees, the closer they are to us pilots, like kind of the more closely they interact with us on a regular basis, the nicer people they are. Um, the tower people, and for the most part, the center people and all those approach people are great. Even the people on the front desks at the FISDOs seem to be really nice people. It's when you get higher and higher and higher they
Sure.
become a little bit more of a challenge. So
Sure. According to Wikipedia, the shuttle landing facility is one of the longest runways in the world at 15,000 feet. Oriented 1533 3315.
yeah.
Columbia was the first shuttle to arrive at the shuttle landing facility, but it came in on the 747 carrier aircraft. Um, Final landing of a shuttle was on July 21, 2011, by Atlantis. So they did use it as a shuttle runway, landing runway.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah. But I want to know whether it's used now. Like, do they
They
land?
don't use it for the shuttle because there ain't no shuttle.
Right. But does it, for example, do they use Big Bertha or one of those big heavy lift aircraft to bring rocket parts out there? I don't know. Yeah.
Um, it's now using or thought to be using the X-37B, which is, I
Oh,
think
that's one of the lifting body things,
yeah, I
isn't
think
it?
it's the
Yeah.
uncrewed Boeing thing that goes up for like 2 years at a time or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Um, yeah, so
um,
it's still in use.
yeah.
Just
Jim,
one of the things that you learn at on a UCAP podcast.
on a UCAP podcast, right? Yeah. Let's see. What we got here in the chat? Tim Etheridge says, "So this is the studio. This is
Yeah,
the where we. Well, yes and no. So that's well. I mean, I shouldn't speak for Jeb. I happen to know that's his home office in the
my cubby
background
hole.
there,
Yeah, yeah.
and as far as I know, that's where I he does it every single time. So that's where he does it when I visit. He's in that room, and I'm out around the corner in the
So
kitchen.
there's no echo, echo,
Yeah,
echo,
because
echo.
we can't do these voice over IP things too close together, otherwise we get feedback. But yeah, and this is actually my home office, although I've put up a barrier here so that you can't see my mad scientist mess back there. It's pretty chaotic back there. So and you're probably not going to see it. Sorry. Uh, let's see now what else we got here. Tim says don't land because it will cut. I'm sorry, I see the video. So I'm reading chat off of an actual an iPad that's watching the actual stream, but because the stream is delayed by about I don't know what 10 seconds or something like
Yeah,
that, I just saw myself waggling my fingers, and it's going to be distracting. I'm trying not. Don't look at the pictures, Jack.
yeah.
Uh,
I had to mute that screen.
Timmy says don't land because it will cut up your tires. The runway at the Space Center is heavily grooved for the shuttle.
Hmm,
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
interesting.
Okay. So maybe they don't use it for anything else. Um, yeah, okay. That's interesting. Although Malcolm says, yes, it's still working, used for NASA astronaut training and test flights. At least that's what they tell the tour groups. All right. All right. And JR says that runway is even longer than Castle. Yeah, Castle's in JR Castle in California is what you're talking about, I think, right? Yeah. Um, I never landed at Castle, but I used to fly it to Mather, which was a former military base out there in the Central Valley, and that was the runway that I've told story of how I naively taxied to the very end of the runway when I was getting ready to depart, and so I started from the very end of the runway, did my takeoff roll, lifted off, started to climb out, reached pattern altitude before I reached the end of the runway. All right, it's a monster long runway, and as I recall, speaking of shuttle runways, I believe Mather was
Mather,
a shuttle alternate runway. I believe. I think
yeah, I think
Pease
that's
here
true.
locally is or was too.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So, anyways, yeah, you landed on Pease when you came out to visit
Yeah,
last fall or the
planning
fall
to do it
before,
again soon.
and yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember. You landed. You didn't land short, but you didn't land long, and you had a bit of a taxi to
Well, I
get all the way.
landed. I was number two. Actually, first airplane was a Bonanza two. Landed um, normally, and I was aware of the NOTAM that said the first, you know, three miles of taxiways are closed, and so you're going to have to, you know, taxi way down, you know, the runway and all that, which was fine. I didn't have any problem with that. I wasn't holding up any other landing traffic either, but it was, you know, I'd forgotten about the NOTAM. I knew the NOTAM was there, completely forgot about it. So
Yeah, yeah. Here's an interesting question. DJ Torrent, forgive me, DJ Torrent or Torrente. I think we've even met. I should know how to pronounce your name. I apologize. Um, he references back to a recent episode where we talked about UFOs and
uh-huh.
the whole thing about you know, identifying them and calling, you know, reporting them and whatnot. He asks, any chance the increase in UFOs is related to ADS-B and primary radar? Um,
I'm not sure I understand.
I think he's wondering. I'm not sure what you're right. I mean, at first I thought he was saying that but the UFOs wouldn't show up. They wouldn't be ADS-B equipped unless they're very, very, you know, kind of respectful aliens. I don't know, but
I'd like to talk to the installer.
you know, or maybe maybe what he's alluding to is not so joking. It's like, you know, there are airplanes out there that we would not have noticed in the past that we're noticing now because they've got ADS-B, and
Well,
they're
we couldn't find an F-35
yeah,
this last week. So
that's an interesting story, isn't it? Yeah,
yes, it
and
is. I think to answer DJ's question here, I think one of the answers is the proliferation of cameras.
yes, well, yes. Um, Although you'd think that that would make us, you know, so that's actually why
And
we
that's
now
and
know.
then you start getting the circular reasoning. Say,
Yeah,
well, if we've got all these cameras out there, why don't we have better evidence?
I know. Yeah.
And
So,
then you know the whole thing falls apart. So,
well, because the NSA has software in all of our cameras, and so it's like,
well, I forgot to. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I forgot about that.
yeah, yeah. So, anyways, what else here? Let's see now. Brian B says I often request intersection
Yeah,
departures 2/3 of the way down the runway at Pease from Portsmouth. That's probably a smart thing to do,
yeah, it
assuming
is.
you're really
It,
comfortable with your airplane. But that's
it
I'm
can be.
certain that
Yeah,
leaves you
yeah,
plenty of runway. Yeah,
yeah.
and don't get too you know don't get too self confident about that kind of thing. You know, but chances are that'd work just fine. Uh, what else here? At some point here, I would have normally said something along the lines of "Welcome, folks, to
Exactly.
Uncontrolled Airspace, the General
I've been
Aviation
kind of sort of waiting.
podcast."
This
I
is
don't
all
know.
new to me.
It's totally new. All right. I'm Jack Hodgson. I'm coming to you from somewhere. I'm high atop the banks of the Cochico River, and in my little gray backgrounded, hiding all my junk home office on video now. On video. Um, and that's my good friend Jeb Burnside sitting
I
right next to me, sitting
Yeah,
right next to
it's
me on the screen, at
modern
least my screen. I
technology.
don't, is he there? No, no, see, hang on, wait a minute. If I point, wait, the thing comes up. Which way is Jeb on the regular scan? I think I'm pointing the wrong way. No, I am pointing the right way.
You're
Okay,
pointing the
yeah,
correct
that's
way.
Jeb. That's it.
We're
And
over there.
that's Jeb from somewhere near Sarasota, Florida.
Uh-huh.
And has it turned fall down there yet?
It's struggling. Um,
Yeah.
we had a cold front try to come through a couple of days ago, and it stalled out, so it's kind of bouncing back and forth. The upshot of it all is I have standing water in my yard again. So
Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah, so we've been catching up on the drought.
Yeah. we've gotten um, the lake at Lookout Point. So um, it's
Hang
not
on,
a natural lake.
let me say we have to talk about the weather. It's
Yeah,
required.
yeah, yeah. Um, not a natural lake. It's I want to say man-made, but it's a it's created by dams, um, and the state controls the level throughout the year. And they actually, I showed you pictures when you
Yeah,
visited a
yeah,
couple
yeah,
falls
yeah,
ago, and it was basically full. And then like a month later, I sent you a picture of it, like basically being bare ground because
yeah.
the 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 area just offshore from Lookout Point is very shallow. It doesn't take They don't have to drop the level much for it to go down to bare ground right out in front there. So it does that, and it's not unusual on a normal summer. The lake will reach full, what they call full pond. That's some sort of technical term if you're
Full
in the
pond.
water
Okay.
biz. Yeah,
You
full
have a real
pond.
problem with lakes and ponds and distinguishing between
Well,
them, don't you?
in this case, that's literally what they call it. They call it full pond, and full pond, and it'll reach that in the spring at a certain point, and then they'll manage it to try and keep it as high as they can, but it'll usually drift downward throughout the summer,
Hmm.
so that by the time the end of the summer arrives, it can be a foot or even 2 feet, or a foot and a half below full pond. This year it didn't do that. I don't know whether it's because we got a lot more rain, and the whole climate change is making it rain more often or whatnot. But it stayed high. As a matter of fact, it's within a few inches right now today. It's within a few inches of the highest it's been all summer. And So we've got water here too, yeah. And which is, it's ironic because a year ago we were experiencing a pretty serious drought, where they were restricting people watering their
Yeah,
lawns
I
and washing
remember.
their cars, and yeah.
I was up there, obviously. Well, it was 2 Octobers ago, and I remember the way the river was flowing and that kind of thing. And then you sent me video after some storm came through, and it was like the river was on steroids. It was out of control.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I just got back from Vermont. One of my brothers lives up in Vermont, and although it's fine up there now, they're all still kind of talking about the fact that they had a lot of crazy weather up there. All right, airplanes. Let's talk about airplanes. What do
That's
we got here?
airplanes. We got the weather
Um,
out of the way.
172. Drew says there's an episode title. We'll call it "Respectable Aliens." Um, Possibly, possibly.
Yeah.
Timothy E, who's from Florida, says fall question mark in Florida question mark. The most color we get is when the weeds turn brown. Is that true? I don't know.
That's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I was almost on the verge of going back to talking about weather. I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that. Let's see now. Malcolm says yes, there is fall in Florida. See, he's tricking me to going back into
It,
weather talk here.
usually comes
Uh,
on a Tuesday.
Yeah, okay, yeah. DJ wants to hear a train. I have no control over that, but if one goes by, I bet you'll hear it, because you usually do. Um, yeah. Oh, that's Jeb said falls a cold front in Florida. There you go. Nathan, Nathan says I'm just here for the promised thunder noises and the far off trains. See, he wants thunder from you, Jeb, and trains from me. All
Yeah,
right.
I can't. I'll look at the radar here in a minute, but I'm not so sure about the thunder out here
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah.
Although it
Uncon-
was,
yeah.
yeah, just well, there's a little pizza pie here. What is this going to be? Ah, it looks like it's dying out. There's one coming this way, but well, hey, you never know. Looks like it's got me bore sided. It's coming down from the north, so we'll have to wait and see. Um, I have no. Yeah, I'm. Yeah, this is a beat up. I always squeeze them to make sure they're empty, but this was a cherry Coke, sugar free.
You're not hearing me. Now you're hearing me.
I'm hearing you now.
Okay, you are. All right. Okay. Um, Anyways, so Jeb's great, and Jeb has all kinds of great supplies, and I really don't need to buy anything, but there are certain things I like, and so I buy a supply for when I'm visiting, and Jeb gets to enjoy them as well. And I think you now are a creamy peanut butter person, all right?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's all your fault, but
Okay. And I noticed that you seem to be liking the diet ginger ales. I don't know, maybe So,
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah. This was, yeah.
yeah,
The diet ginger ales are fine. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm drinking. Apparently, it's super dry in the Midwest, at least there in Ohio. Um, did the sound just drop out? It
Yeah,
might have.
yeah.
Um,
Yours,
it
yours did, Jack.
It might have. This is
Yeah.
a problem we've had in episodes recently, and usually you don't hear it, listeners, because we're recording privately, and then I just edit it out or edit around it. Um, but for some reason, this microphone, which really not the microphone so much as the converter, seems to have a problem dropping out on our the system we use, and it may have just done that, but it seems to be back now. You're hearing me, right, Jeb?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hearing you.
Okay. So we'll see. I'll try and stay on top of that. And anyways,
Anyways,
yeah. Apparently, it's just coming back now in the delayed stream. What else we got here? Ingenuity flew. Apparently, Ingenuity went for a service ceiling record of some sort, right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. Um, breaks the altitude record on its 59th Mars flight. Um, even the what's the base station? I forget. Um,
The
Ingenuity is a helicopter.
Ingenuity is a
Um,
helicopter. Perseverance.
Perseverance. Oh no, it's Ingenuity took a picture of its shadow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So good old
Um,
Ingenuity. May you and my airplanes be as have the endurance that this foolish little thing has, um, with no maintenance and within a couple million miles, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
yeah,
logged 106.5 minutes, which is almost 2 hours of flight time,
yeah.
and
On some
that's
level,
that's
that doesn't
really
sound like a
cool.
lot, but it's really a lot.
It's
I mean,
really a lot.
when the flights are like a minute at a time, 2 minutes or something like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So good for Ingenuity. Um, What else we got here? There was a question. Someone, no, this doesn't come from chat,
All right.
but there was a question that a listener sent in by email. This was from back during Oshkosh when I asked people to submit questions that we might, because I thought we might record this kind of an episode while we were at
Sure.
Oshkosh, and we never did. And one particular question that I kind of wanted to respond to, I don't know, maybe nobody cares, but this guy asked for it. Who was it? It was listener Tad Y, who I don't see Tad in this chat, so he's probably not here right now. But Tad wrote the question for your Oshkosh Daily, which is now for your live stream daily. Jeb has during episodes talked about how he started flying as self-loading freight with his father. Jack, how did you get involved in aviation? When did you get your private?
That's a
Um,
great question.
I started flying. So I had always been fascinated by airplanes. I think I've always assumed this because I'm a gadget person. I like gadgets, and airplanes are just the ultimate gadget. I also like maps. I've always liked maps, and aviation has lots of good maps. So maybe for some reason, maybe other reasons, or I've always been I'd always, all my life, I'd drive by an airport and I'd slow down because I just wanted to kind of glance at the airport. But it never occurred to me to really do anything about it until I moved into a new apartment when I first moved to California. And I moved into this apartment, and I was kind of meeting my neighbors, and I met the neighbor next door, a woman. Woman, who we were just chatting about our lives and what was going on, and she mentioned that she was learning how to fly, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. I've always wanted to do that. And God bless her, she did exactly the right thing, which is she said, oh, well, I want to introduce you to my flight instructor. You need to come down and get the
Hmm.
demo flight and meet my instructor. And I said, oh, okay, I did. And I did. And that's so I went down to Palo Alto Airport there and West Valley Flying Club and met Jeff Aronson. It's a long time ago, but I'm pretty sure that was his name, who was my first instructor, who is the one who kind of taught me to fly, gave me this skill, this gift, and learned spent a lot of time in 152s transition, and it took a long time for me to learn to finish for a variety of reasons. For example, God bless him, but Jeff left me just as we were starting to approach getting ready for the private. Because like so many instructors, he was grooming himself for the airlines, and he suddenly got the call and had to go, and I basically lost him from one week to the next. And
Yeah.
so I had to get a new instructor, which is fine. Getting new instructors is actually not a problem. It's actually kind of good because they have
It
different
is. It is
perspectives.
good in various
Yeah.
ways.
So I got a new instructor, and I'm about to say that I don't know whether my instructor was a here. The point is, I had two more instructors to finish my training because the second instructor worked with me for a few months, and then that person got the call and left me. All right, and so I of my second and third instructor, one was a man and one was a woman. I can't remember which was second, which was third. They're both good instructors. I have great memories of flying with them, and we eventually got me through to. It took me forever to do my cross countries because of weather. It was just the wrong
Hmm.
season in central Northern California, where you get like morning overcast and in the winter time of California it rains a lot, and so it took forever for me to do my cross countries, but I finally completed the cross countries, and then I went and did my check ride, which took two. And I think I've told this story too. So, first of all, it took me two scheduled attempts to finish my check ride. Um, the first day, and you get all geared up, I mean, it's like it's a lot. It's a psychic thing
Yeah.
to get yourself ready, especially when you're kind of a nearly middle-aged person who hasn't been to school and taken a test in a long time, and you just don't even know how to study. You don't know if you studied enough. And so I went to and then, so and I was going to take the check ride. So I was flying out of Palo Alto, which is sort of Silicon Valley in California, and I was going to fly not very far. It's like 10, 15 miles to San Carlos, which is where the examiner was based.
Hmm.
And so I flew up there one morning, and we knew the weather was marginal. It was safe enough to fly in the valley, but we weren't sure we'd be able to get out of the valley because of the mountains being obscured by clouds. So I sat down with the instructor, and we did the oral, and quizzed me as they do, and I passed that. And then we looked out the window, and he said, "This is just not going to work today." And I'm going, "Yeah, okay, I get it." And so then the problem was that in about 4 days' time, he was leaving town on. It was actually, it must have been fall, must have been like this time of year,
Hmm.
because he was also a Reno air racer pilot, and he was getting ready to go to Reno. All right, and so. But we basically worked out a thing where there was like one morning where if I got in there and the weather was okay, we could go and we could finish the check ride. So we did that, um, and we went out and did the air work and did all the things that you do, and I basically busted the check ride. All right. The reason I busted the check ride was we got to the point where he wanted me to demonstrate engine out landing. All right. So we're out over the farm fields out there. If you know the area on the you're at Silicon Valley, and you head towards the ocean, you fly over a range of we call them hills, mountains, and then there's kind of foothills on the ocean side with a lot of farmland, and in between hills. I mean, it's like not just like it's not like Nebraska. But we're out there, and he basically chops the power and says, "Land the airplane." He says, "What are you going to do now?" And I look left and right and say, "I'm going to land right there." He says, "Okay." I turn the airplane, lining up to land in this field, and I was clearly not going to make it. I was going to land. I was going to come down short. And
Clear. Yeah.
he's
Engine. You need to clear the engine.
No, no, no. I don't know whether when he was going to add the power. All right, because we weren't very low, but we were low enough that it was apparent that I was not going to reach the field that I had pointed to. And so about the time I'm thinking, oh, this is not working, he said to me, "You're not going to make the field, are you?" And I said, "No, I'm not." He says, "What are you going to do now?" And I quickly looked and there was another field just at 90 degrees to the right. And so I said, "I'm going there now." And so I turned the airplane, started to go there. And just as I finished the turn, he added the power and we climbed out. So we did a little bit more air work, and I'm thinking this is not good. This is not a good thing. All right, and we're flying back to San Carlos, and the way you arrive at San Carlos from that direction is you go overhead the field, and then you kind of do a big descent into a right downwind. And so we did overhead the field and down into right downwind. And while we're on the downwind, I heard him fiddling with the electronics. All right, and my instructor had done this all the time, which is basically he isolated himself on the radio and he was talking to the tower without me being able to hear them. And I kind of instantly knew what he was doing. He was warning the tower that they were going to do a simulated engine failure. All right, and getting permission. All right, and he got finished fiddling with the radios and came back and chopped the power and said, "Can you land the airplane?" I said, "Sure, yes, I can do this." And so and I did a dead stick landing all the way to the ground on the runway, and that I was totally comfortable with that. And so we um, landed. He gave me some power so I could taxi off the runway, and we taxied off the runway. And as we're taxiing back, I forget at some point, maybe it was while we were taxiing, or maybe it was while after we had stopped. But he basically said to me, he said you had busted this ride, this check ride. I was going to fail you. He said, but he said the way you handled that landing at the end showed me that you clearly know how to get to a point with no power and put the airplane down. And he said you need to go back to your instructor and get more training on on engine out landings in the field. But he says I pass you now.
Good for
Um,
you.
and
Good for
and I
you.
did it. I became a pilot.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. That was 25 years ago now. And so so Tad Y, that's my story.
Hmm.
And yeah, the rest is history. And then I met Dave Higdon, and then I met Jeb Burnside, and all downhill from there.
Yeah.
What's going on here? What are people saying here in the chat? Let's see now. They can still hear me. I can see that my thing
Mm-hmm.
is going there. Jeb can hear me, so that's a good sign. Uh,
Everybody, I think, heard the train.
Good. You see, I was having so much fun telling my
Yeah,
story that
I know.
I didn't hear the
I
train.
know.
It's just really weird. Why am I off center here? I don't like that. I want to fix this. There we go. That's a little better. Um, I don't even notice the trains. I just don't even hear them. It's really just kind of I hear them sometimes, but I didn't hear that one. I was having too much fun telling my story. Um, so there's a train. Check that box on your UCAP live stream bingo, and we'll see what Jeb can do with the thunder situation. I don't know. It's not
Yeah,
looking
it's
good.
all
It's not looking good.
no, it's not looking
Um,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see now. JR says he's having a good time. He says, and then we ran out of fuel. Oops.
Oops.
Um, yeah. Uh, Bill Mellett said he did you a solid. He probably wanted to see you do a go around. He probably think he's talking about my examiner. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, Bill Millett says, Jeb, you said on a relatively recent episode that you had
Mhm.
updated the avionics in your Debonair. Just curious what you ended up doing and what your calculus was in making the decision. I know you're excited to tell us all about that later on, Jeb.
Yeah.
Are you ready
Uh,
to talk about it just
we
yet?
can talk about it here. Obviously, this is kind of a special episode. Um, I went with an Avidyne system, um, three panel system. They call it the 2500 Max. It's basically their top end um, glass installation for my airplane. Um, a variety of reasons, for a variety of reasons, I should say. Excellent redundancy for one. Um, Works and plays well with my equipment, where a brand G wouldn't. Uh, I couldn't take full advantage of all the features with my existing autopilot and my existing GPS. So, but I can do that with the Avidyne. So there's 15 grand minimum that I saved. I rationalize it this way, 15 grand minimum I saved by going the Avidyne route and not, I'm sorry, not Avidyne, Aspen. Um, by going the Aspen route and not having to change out or tweak the autopilot or change out the 530. So I haven't gotten it back yet though. So I have
Yeah.
no clue.
Yeah.
And they're getting a phone call in the morning to try to nail down when this is going to be over with. So,
Yeah. Because
um,
like any construction project, it's taking like,
well, yeah,
150% of the
it
time.
always takes longer than
Right.
budgeted. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we've been joking a little bit about how you're going to have to learn how to fly this airplane all over again. This is just going to be a different
Yes.
experience.
And Amy Laboda, who I have on good authority is listening, is going to make some money off me in the very near future. Hopefully, it won't be too much work for her, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, so yeah, it's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to actually hearing, kind of pilot reports as you get this thing and learn
Bill
how to
wrote,
fly
I
it.
still do have the tail dragger. Um, it's in it's a partnership with um, an acquaintance, and the acquaintance and I haven't seen eye to eye on a variety of things in some time. So it's not flying or flyable right now. And one of these days, maybe I'll be flying it again. I don't know. We'll see. I
Yeah,
look forward to
yeah.
it.
How is it you describe it in the bio tag at the end of your articles?
I own the Debonair, and I own the expensive half of an Aranca Champ.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Yeah, so doing it.
yeah.
Uh, Believe it or not, I think we're
I'm
reaching.
hearing raindrops.
Not from me. Is it raining
No,
with you?
here.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, so
I'm,
we're gonna get
yeah,
thunder.
we're going to get
Okay.
rain. I don't know about the
Okay.
thunder part.
All right. Okay.
Um, we'll see.
Uh, what do we got here? Hey, did that one, JR? Would you be
Yeah, the
surprised how
chainlings
many?
take a drink. Absolutely.
JR says would be surprised how many pilots cannot make a landing from overfield at like 2K. That's an aspect of flying. I'm not, I mean, I'm not a Jeb or a Dave or a JR or any, you guys are much better pilots than I am. I mean, I'm good enough to be safe, and I'm smart enough to not fly when I'm not good. But I there one aspect of flying that's never concerned me is in the pattern. Always felt relatively comfortable in the pattern, and landing at San Carlos, operating at San Carlos has always been interesting because it's situated in such a way that you can't fly a normal pattern there. Like for example, it's right up against the edge of the class Bravo, the San Francisco Bravo, and so for example, you can't do a normal 45 entry from either northerly directions. The runways roughly north south. That's not exactly true to people out there in California. JR, for example, probably knows well, but let's just call it north south. You can't do a 45 from either the northeast or the northwest because you bust the Bravo. So you have to come basically straight over, and you can't go too high because you're going to bust the Bravo above, and you can't go too far out over the bay, which is to the east, because you're going to bust the Bravo. And so typically and you can't do traffic on the west side of the airport because it's highly congested. There's houses and they don't want the noise thing. So typically the way you arrive at San Carlos, if you're landing to the north ish, is that you arrive over the airport like at 500, 700 feet above pattern altitude, and then over center field you usually turn to, if you're coming from the south, you turn right and you descend down into the downwind, and that can require a little bit of vertical speed. I mean, you can come down fast, and I've never been troubled by that. I kind of like that. I thought that was a lot of fun. It's like you chop the power and put out some. I'm assuming you're at the right speed. Put out some flaps, do what you need to do, and drop the nose, and you go down fast. And I did that one time with my regular instructor. All right. And afterwards, or at some point during the process, he said, "Okay," he said, "you did that real well. That was good." He says, "But just be advised that you might have passengers that would not like that experience." Okay, so no, think twice about doing that with some people. And I think, well,
Yeah.
I guess that's probably true. But I thought it was fun. It was kind of like dive bombing well, not at the ground, but at downwind. So yeah. Um, anyways, um, I think we may be. What time is it, anyways? Oh yeah, I think we're reaching the end of our allotted time here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this has been great. Thank you
Yeah,
so much
and we're
for.
getting a lot of good feedback on the
Yeah, we're
chat
getting a
too.
lot of good feedback.
Yeah.
Let me just make sure I've got touched on everything. Have I said hello to everybody? Dave Pasco's here. Hi, Dave. How are you
Yeah.
doing? Michael Vance is here. I don't think I said hello to you yet. Who else is here that I haven't said hello to? Reed Baldwin. How you doing? I was on my fifth instructor when I got my license. So my condolences. You know, because on some level that's a great experience. It's a great learning experience, but on another level, it's really frustrating because at the time you kind of want to get going. It's like, come on, I want to.
Yeah, Yeah,
It can be.
I share that. I had 4 or 5 instructors
Yeah.
before I got to my private, and same kind of thing. And not so much airlines as opposed to just going off for a better job, charter pilot or something like that. Um, and you know, back then, transient instructors in small town South Georgia, we didn't have a whole lot to choose from. And I had airplane issues. I was started out working it through the local Civil Air Patrol Squadron, which had 3 airplanes at the time. It had a 150, Cherokee 140, and a 182. Somewhere up the ladder, someone decided that was too many airplanes for that little squadron.
Too many?
Too many, yeah. And um, dispersed all 3 of them and traded them for a T-41 172 that was a former trainer at Colorado Springs, I guess. Um, but um, started flying that. I got my private in a 150 from the FBO as opposed to the CAP squadron, and then checked out in a 172 and never looked back, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. You, by the way, I've always been jealous, Jeb, that you have Andrews Air Force Base in your logbook.
I do. I also
Yeah.
have Maui,
Maui. Well, okay, I guess that's cool too. But
Hawaii,
yeah,
but yeah, yeah.
yeah, right. No,
Yeah.
um, yeah, but we mere mortals don't get to land at places
Yeah,
like
I was
Andrews Air
again
Force
Civil Air
Base. You
Patrol
know,
thing. I
yeah,
was in a squadron in the D.C. area, and by virtue of that, I was eligible to join the Andrews Aero Club, and that was a lot of fun. They had a lot of airplanes, 152s, Cherokees, Arrows, 182s, 177 Cardinal RGs, 170, yeah, 172s, obviously. Um, Usually could get an airplane, and they were all well maintained. So
yeah, yeah. Catching up here in the chat, JR reminds me that the runways at San Carlos are 1, 2, and 3, 0. Are they still JR, by the way? Though, because that's what the runways were at Palo Alto when I was learning how to fly. And like within a year after I left, they changed the numbering at Palo Alto because the compass was precessing. Is that the right term? Palo Alto went from being 1, 2, 3, 0 to being 1, 3, and 3, 1, and did I guess San Carlos's aren't sufficiently, they're a slightly different angle than Palo Alto, so they didn't have to get renumbered, I guess. Um, but yeah, 1, 2, and 3, 0, which if you stop and think about it for a second, that's not north south at all. But the people who live on the peninsula there in the San Francisco Peninsula think of it as being north south. Pilot friend of mine actually was talking to the controllers flying up the peninsula one time, and I forget the exact exchange, but it was something along the lines of we want to go north along such and such, and the controller said, "Do you mean real north or virtual north?" and 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 then my friends, I mean virtual north, because it's sort of like, yeah, it's like peninsula north. Christopher Reimer, hi, how you doing? Shout out from SQL. That's San Carlos. He
yeah,
says he's an SQL pilot here. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, that was a fun airport. Used to have a great restaurant. I don't know if it still does. Um, but it's a little tricky to get in and out of if you're it's see, so many people talk about flying in difficult airspace that has all sorts of controlled areas and you know um, ARSAs and TCAs, um, uh, Bravos and Charlies. And I grew up in that environment. I mean, from my very first lesson, I had to be careful about not going too far north from Palo Alto and not going, staying low enough as we were crossing the bay when we were heading east, rather, because you could bust the what was then the TSA, the Bravo, and so yeah, but it's a different experience flying out there. I forget what got me started on that. Anyways, where are we here? I think we're going to start to wrap this up, Jeb. Unless you got
yeah.
something else you want to talk about. What?
No, let me look at the list real quick.
Yeah. Bill Mellett says
Um,
this was fun. Thank you, Bill. It was fun. I enjoyed it too.
yeah, it was. We're still having fun. Everybody's aware that Jimmy Buffett passed away, and there's a
Uh,
movement to rename the Key West Airport after him. It might be an online petition you could log into and sign on
yeah.
to.
What are we going to call it?
Um,
We got to call it like Parrot Field.
Parrot Head International or
Yeah,
something. I
right.
don't know.
Margarita Field.
That would be
Margarita.
confusing.
Yeah, no, yeah, that would be, I guess. Huh? Yeah.
Margarita
Uh,
Margaritaville International at Key West,
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. S80 Forever says, got my private in CAP airplanes,
Yeah,
owned by a senior member. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
cool.
let's see now. Michael Vance says, every time I get on a regional carrier, I always think of the CFI that got the pilot started. How I hope I hope that they were good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Well, that's a story that's on the list. We may go into more depth in a regular future episode.
Hmm.
They want to start giving drone pilots
Yeah,
be
yeah,
able to count
yeah.
those hours
I
towards their
know.
1500. Yeah, okay, you're going to go apoplectic on me, Jeb. What?
Yeah. That's yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do.
Don't
Yeah,
do that. Um, I would
uh,
like to know about it ahead of time before I book a flight. Let's put it
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
that way.
Cessna 177 pilot's going to one up us both. He says I flew into Andros in a C-141 and a C-5. He said, okay, you
I
win.
flew out of there in and out in a 130, but
Yeah,
I was self-loading freight at
yeah,
the
you were a
time.
little further back in the airplane, I would imagine,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, JR confirms they change as the magnet poles of the Earth vary. We know this, JR. We're all
yeah.
pilots. We understand how this works. Um, Christopher Reimer says that Sky Kitchen is still alive and well at SQL. If you're out there and you're looking for a place to go, you want an interesting flight over some interesting terrain and a good restaurant, go to San Carlos, SQL, Sierra Quebec Lima. Which I always thought it was interesting. See, the computer geeks will know this. SQL is the code for San Carlos Airport, which is there in the
Yeah,
middle of
SQL. Yeah.
SQL. SQL is also the abbreviation for a computer database query language. Like I forget what it is. Yeah, I don't even know what it stands for.
Structured
Structured
query
query language.
language.
All right. And what makes that particularly
And I'm the
interesting
non-geek here.
what makes that particularly interesting is that San Carlos Airport is like a mile away from the world
Oracle.
headquarters
Yeah,
of the database company there,
Oracle.
Oracle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So I always thought that was interesting. Hamburger Paradise Field, Bill says. Hamburger Paradise Field. Okay, that could
yeah.
work.
That's
Yeah.
cheeseburger in Paradise Field. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Tim asks Jeb regarding Jimmy Buffett. Remember when Leesburg, Virginia, was called Godfrey Field?
Uh huh.
After the popular radio personality who flew there. Is that true? I didn't know that.
That's
Okay, yeah,
true. Yeah, yeah,
Arthur Godfrey, yes,
yeah.
was one of the people who sort of got me thinking about flying way back when. There were a couple of radio people that I used to listen to in my long ago youth. This is really dating myself. I guess Arthur Godfrey was not. He was pretty late in his career when I was a kid. But there was also another Boston radio personality who
There's a guy on TV named Bob Cummins
yeah,
back in the 50s.
yeah.
And he had an Aero Commander, I want to think, and used it in some of his programs. I don't remember that much more about the whole thing, but yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Sky King, Sky's Niece Penny.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
um,
Um, JR says there's also another nice restaurant on the other side of the runway at San Carlos. JR, do you mean on the field? Because it certainly is in a neighborhood where you're not too much of a walk from a lot of choices. Although you got to get to the other side of what is it, the 101 highway there. But yeah. Um, anyways, Malcolm writes, Timothy, I remember Godfrey Field. I got my license there. Oh, really, Malcolm,
yeah.
at KJYO Airport. And the Hill. That's right, Jr. The Hiller Aviation Museum. That's another great thing to do at San Carlos
Mm-hmm.
Airport. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. A very very nice, not huge, but very nice aviation museum called the Hiller Aviation Museum is right there on the field at San Carlos. Um, it says, see, this is sad. Malcolm tells us that the original Godfrey Field is now a grocery store shopping center. The city moved the airport to the current location a long time ago. So,
It's funny. I was doing some logbook diving. I wanted to pin down the date on which I got my commercial and the aircraft in which I got it in. And for right now, I'm still drawing a blank. Um, but it was an airport in the DC area, outlying airport, kind of beneath the Bravo. Woodbridge is the name of the airport, but it's long gone. It's been gone 20 years max minimum. And I had to look up the identifier to verify that it was that I was my recollection was correct. And yeah, airports come and go. I guess is the punchline.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought we'd go 30, maybe 45 minutes
I
on this. We're
thought
on
we
the
wouldn't last much longer than
yeah.
20 actually, but
We're still rolling.
oh, you just cut your audio just cut out. Move your microphone.
There. Is it back now?
Yeah, it's back.
It's back now. All right. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
I have to figure out what's going on with that. Let's. So I just want to say a few words here to thank people. This is so. This was an experiment,
yeah.
and I think it's a success, or at least it's worth trying again. And so we probably will. When we talked about doing this originally, we thought this should be a perk for our patrons, the people who have been
Mhm.
supporting us, and we said yes, absolutely, that's what we want to do, and we're really pleased. We want to thank all of you folks for helping us. Many of you are Patreon supporters, some of you are PayPal supporters, and some of you are people who have helped us out in other ways, volunteers, and helped us with different projects and so forth. And so we really, really thank you. My hair looks silly.
No
Oh,
more
that's not.
so than normal.
That's not better. I just ruined it. Anyways, thank you to all of you for all of your
Yes,
support
yes,
of the
yes, yes.
podcast over the years. So not only is the live stream exclusive to you guys, but the replay will be exclusive to you guys for a couple of weeks. Um, but after a couple of weeks, we will then make this replay available to anybody who wants to watch it. And I think that's a model we'll follow at least for a while. I don't know exactly when Jeb and I need to talk and see when we do this again. But I can imagine it maybe even happening within a month, certainly within 2 months, that we'll do another one of these
Yeah,
live streams.
I think I can go on a fairly stout limb and say it'll happen again before Halloween.
Oh, very
Certainly
nice.
before Thanksgiving.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Oh, there we go. You heard him say that, folks, and I've got it
Mm,
recorded.
yeah.
You can see his lips moving and everything. Um, Anyways, so thank you to everyone. I don't
I
need to
just caught that.
plug Patreon because you guys are already Patreon people, and we really thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, wouldn't hurt to tell your friends, but spread the
Hey,
word. And when this thing finally goes public, if you want to tell your friends, share links to it and whatnot, that would be great too. I don't have any kind of prepared, closing remarks here. Thank you to Jeb. You guys know who Jeb is right
that's
there.
Jack over there.
Yeah, and uh, yeah, so I think, let's see, is there any other final questions here that we want to hear? JR is still focusing on this restaurant that's on the other side of the field. JR says it's
Izzy's
called Izzy's Steakhouse.
Izzy's
Um,
Steakhouse.
and JR says thank you to you for all your hard work, Jack and Jeb. You're very welcome. We have fun doing it, and getting to know you folks is a great
Yeah,
compensation
absolutely.
for all
And
of the work.
I'm not going to try to answer everybody and thank them individually, but
Yeah.
very, very gratified, surprised, humbled, and honored at the turnout
Yeah.
tonight. And
So,
thank you all very, very
all
much.
right. Um, I guess that's it. I think we're going to end it here. Um, this is if you
GTFN.
watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Hey, wayward aviators. That's enough talking. Let's go flying. This is the moment now. By the way, if anybody watches live streams, particularly YouTube live streams, when I push the button to end the stream, it won't end instantly. There will be kind of an awkward moment or two while Jeb and I just kind of stand here going, "Oh, did it
Because
end? Did it?"
awkward moments are us.
Yeah, right. So, anyways, thank you, everyone, and we'll talk to you all again